So today on the Family Law Vlog, we're doing something a bit different. I'm here with my partner, Philip Way, who's one of my Mills Reeve colleagues, who's a specialist in various things, including pensions and pension shares. So there are lots of different types of pensions. What are the different types of pensions that people need to think about when they're getting divorced?
Well, there are three main types of pension, Caitlin, that people need to consider. There's the state pension, which must never be overlooked. And can have significant value and significant benefit to people several years down the line or in the immediate future for the older divorcee. There are then pensions that people typically pay money into, personal pensions. They are defined contribution schemes, and their performance and value is likely to be driven by the underlying asset, very often stocks and shares. And then there are defined benefit pension schemes. Those are schemes typically provided by employers, and they will provide a defined benefit at a particular age that somebody reaches. Those two different types of pensions, defined contribution and defined benefit, will have values attached to them by pension specialists and the people that run those pensions. And although their values can be similar, it's very important to look at the underlying value, because defined benefit schemes can be disproportionately valuable to the people that own them.
So what sort of information do people need to get about their pension when they're getting divorced?
I think it's really important, Caitlin, that people don't just focus on the thing that the court requires, which is the cash equivalent value of the pension. That can often be quite an artificial construct, really, that can give a misleading figure. What people really need to drill down to is what a pension is going to provide by way of an income in retirement. And there is a form that's freely available on the internet. It's called a Form P that you can provide to a pension provider. And the pension provider has to provide all sorts of information about the pension in response to that enquiry. In terms of state pensions, again, there are two forms, again, readily available on the internet, forms BR19 and BR20, and again, they will provide a forecast of somebody's pension and the value of an additional state pension.
So it's really important to have that information, and that goes beyond, as you say, not only the cash equivalent value, but even more importantly beyond just the sort of normal transfer value statement that people get annually.
Yes. That
really isn't enough in this context. So it's really important to get the right advice about the relevant pension.
Absolutely, yeah.
So people have got the information. What can a court actually do with pensions when people are getting divorced? What sort of orders can a court make?
Well, quite a range of things, really, Caitlin. Perhaps the most obvious solution is a pension sharing order, where a court can actually physically divide somebody's pension to provide a pension pot in their own right to their spouse. Sometimes that won't be either possible or desirable, and so the court will do what's called offsetting the value of a pension against the value of another asset that's available to the family. The court also has the possibility of making a pension attachment order, which is a little used remedy, and it doesn't actually separate the pensions out, but it creates a right to either an income or capital to the non-pension holding spouse.
So a couple who are divorcing have got all the information together, they've thought about all the options, but how would a couple who are, for example, in mediation, or if they're a couple are dealing with things through a court, how will they actually decide what actually they do with their pensions? What are those options they do take?
There isn't an easy answer to that question, Caitlin, because the court has a very wide discretion as to how it will deal with any asset on divorce, and pension is no exception. It's really important not to have pension tunnel vision and to look at pension in isolation from all of the other assets. It will very much depend on the age and stage of people getting divorced as to the part that a pension will play in a particular case. But if you're dealing with a couple perhaps in their 60s who have been married for a long time, have built up a variety of different assets over that long marriage, the court will look to equalise the pension benefits. If you're dealing with a much younger couple, each of whom will have the ability to regenerate pension long after the divorce, then pensions may play a very distant part in formulating a settlement.
So it very much depends on the circumstances at the time and the context of the other assets, the income pot, the rest of the capital pot, those sorts of things as well.
It does,
yeah.
It does. But the court's overriding desire is to provide a fair outcome, and that's what solicitors negotiating for clients should be striving from day one.
Absolutely. And so finally, really, just for this vlog, if there is a pension share, which as you mentioned is one of the common ways that people deal with their pension arrangements when they're getting divorced, how does that actually work? How long does it take to be implemented? How does that fit in?
Well, once the pension sharing order has taken effect and the person responsible for the pension arrangement has had all of the pieces of information that they need, including crucially the decree absolute of divorce, the person responsible has 4 months within which to implement the pension sharing order and carve out the separate pension for the spouse who didn't originally hold the pension. And there are sanctions that can be applied to pension providers if they delay beyond that 4-month period.
Thank you. So that's just an idea of some of the basics on things to think about in terms of pensions, how to get them valued, pension sharing and what it could all mean in the context of divorce. But as always with the Family Law Vlog, this is only general information and advice, and if you need specific advice on your circumstance, then you should speak to a specialist family lawyer solicitor, and my details and those of Philip and my other colleagues in the Mills Reeve family team are at the end of this vlog.